Hello and welcome to my vintage audiophile channel. This is now my 25th video, and today I'm going to be reviewing a pair of bookshelf speakers. Actually a rather large bookshelf speakers. They are about 2 feet tall by approximately a foot wide and maybe 16-17 inches deep. You would need a pretty heavy stand to put these on a bookshelf or a speaker stand. They are fairly heavy. They're called Aura, and the LSW 628 is the model name. It is by a company that wasn't around for very long. They were around probably right around the turn of this last century here, but they and a few years before that, but they just did not get a following because most people had never heard of them, and they didn't have a very good advertising campaign, so people just kind of passed them by. At one point in time, you could buy them on UBid back then for like less than $40 per speaker, and they sound 10 times better than that. The build quality is amazing. It is very heavy cabinet. And it has a really decent set of RCA jacks on the back to hook up your speakers. And the one thing that distinguishes it from most of the stuff at the time is that it has what were called Lineaum tweeters, and that is a concept that was designed by a company back in the early 90s called Lineaum. They made their own speakers, but like Aura, they didn't have a very big following because people just didn't know who they were, and then they ended up leasing their technology to Radio Shack in the mid 90s. Radio Shack in turn made a bunch of speakers that they were for the burgeoning home theater genre, all kinds of different sizes, compositions, and they started out with the Optimus brand on them. Later on, when Optimus was being phased out, they put the RCA label on them, which at the time they were having a partnership with RCA till about 1999, when they decided they were going to go a different direction and be more like the company they are today, with cell phones and things like that, and they kind of abandoned their home audio equipment. This here, let me show you what they look like. I'll take the grill off of one of these so you can see what they look like. What you immediately see up at the top there is a tweeter that looks anything but standard. It is one of the better tweeter designs that has ever been made. There's only been a couple other designs to rival it, and they are touted as having one of the nicest, smoothest sound of any tweeter that was ever produced, although some might dispute that. And they also had a 6-inch woofer and a port. The only downfall of these speakers, sonic wise, was they were a little light in the mid-range area, which is kind of standard for a two-way design, and the woofer could not handle too much volume, otherwise it would start vibrating a little bit. But if you were into having them for like a surround sound on your backs or something like that, they work just wonderful in that respect. Aura made a couple different models, but they didn't make too many. They also had a 627 model, which was same woofer, same tweeter, a little smaller woofer, and a cabinet about half the size. And they, like I say, they weren't around very long. And after they kind of went out of business, then the Lineaum tweeter kind of went by the wayside because the maker and manufacturer of them, they went out of business. They just didn't have the capital to keep producing because they were very expensive to make these tweeters. And Lineaum, the company itself, made their tweeters with real silk film on them. When they partnered with Radio Shack, they changed that to a mylar type of material, and then later polypropylene. But the silk ones are the best, and if you can find a Lineaum modeled speaker with the silk material, that is the best that they made. I think they basically just made different styles as the years went along, just because of the cost of making them. They tried to cut costs a little bit. Even the third generation of them still sounded great. It just wasn't as great as the first generation. They can handle from about 100 hertz to 20k hertz. They are very weak in the bottom end, and that's typical of a smaller woofer. You can extend that down a little further if you do some little doctoring to the speakers themselves by putting fill inside the speaker, fiber fill, and also adding stuffing to the ports themselves will also help with that. Give it more bass definition in lower reaches. For me, I'm hesitant to mod anything, and they've always sounded just fine to me as is, because I'm not a real bass head like some people can be at times. But these speakers will definitely sing for you if you have them. You will have a very pleasant experience with the tweeters. Some of the earlier Radio Shack Optimus ones that came out around '95, like the LX5 and the LX10, which was the floor standing model, had their tweeters mounted on top of the cabinet with a separate grill, so that you could get basically a 365 degree dispersion of the sound, whereas the ones that are mounted in front, of course, they can only disperse frontwards at 180 degrees. But like I say, they were a concept that were probably ahead of their time, and not enough people really knew what they were and were leery to try something new, that they never really caught on. The people that did buy the speakers with Lineaum tweeters still swear by them to this day. And of course, you'll always have your detractors, but by and large, the vast majority of people who have experienced Lineaum tweeters love the sound and love the concept and will never part with their speakers. This is, like I say, this is just one example of Lineaum tweeters. Actually, I think I've heard of some JVC and Onkyo models in the late 90s that had Lineaum tweeters too. And they probably would have produced more if the company had stayed in business. But they didn't, and so went the concept. And I think they probably were never continued because nobody was able to garner the rights to take them over for themselves and keep producing them. So when the company died, they died too. So that is my review of the Aura speakers. Like I say, there are other companies and models that have Lineaum tweeters. This is just one example, but it is a very fine example. These things, like I say, were sold very cheaply when they came out. for a price that was almost ridiculous compared to the quality of the speakers themselves and the quality build of everything involved with them. So if you ever happen to find a pair of Aura speakers, or for that matter any brand of speakers that has Lineaum tweeters in it, I wouldn't hesitate to buy them, especially if they're working properly, which they usually are. They're pretty sturdy. So until next time, thank you for watching this video. Please like it. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any comments or questions about this video or any of the other videos that I have in my collection, please feel free to leave a comment online or PM me or whatever you'd like to do. Until next time, have a good day and God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.